Hello, and thank you for joining the TalenTrust May 2020 Executive Briefing. Recovery through people continuity. What's your plan? If you experience technical difficulties during the webinar today, please contact Susan Henry from the TalenTrust team. Her contact information is in the chat. We will also use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen to collect questions. So we encourage you to put your questions there throughout, and Kathleen will answer these at the end. Today's briefing is presented by Kathleen Quinn Votaw, founder and CEO of TalenTrust and author of Solve the People Puzzle. Kathleen has overcome challenges ranging from job loss to the 2008 recession to becoming one of less than 2% of women business owners whose company broke the $1 million mark. Along her journey, she's learned an important lesson. A people-centric workplace is the key to attracting and retaining the minds that will take your business to the next level. This holds true today as states are beginning to reopen and businesses are planning their recoveries. In today's briefing, Kathleen will discuss the recovery process and will provide insight into developing your plan for recovery. It is my pleasure to introduce Kathleen Quinn Votaw.
Thank you, Erin. Hello, lovely people of Zoom. I wish I could be with you in person. Many of you I know and care about, and I hope your families are healthy and safe during these very interesting times. We're here today to talk about let's recover, let's get back to work safely and responsibly. And I'm here to answer your questions, not just deliver content. So I am going to turn off my webcam to deliver you the content, and then I will pop back on to do Q&A. So as my friend Erin said, make sure you put your questions as I go along into the chat, and we're going to get those answered because that's my priority for you today. So thank you for joining us, and let's jump into the content. So we're all talking about recovery, and I saw a wonderful interview with Bernie Marcus, who's the founder, one of the founders of Home Depot, and he's 90 years old. And he really struck me with his quote that we want to all get back to work, and business owners want to bring our businesses back. We want to make some decisions. But one size does not fit all in the recovery. Some of us have business to consumer businesses, some of us have B2B businesses, some of us have essential workers, some of us have non-essential workers, which I hate that phrase because all people are essential. But you know, one size is not going to fit all in our recovery. What's really important to focus on are three things. Stabilization. Figure out what your break-even number is. Have you hit it yet? Do you know what it is? What are your inflows? What are your outflows? And remember that cash is king. Hopefully all of you have your PPP or have applied for it, or have some other kind of financial resource to get you through the next 2 quarters. So stabilize your business and understand what your break-even number is. Number 2, grow. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but in the recovery, what is your growth plan? Growing how, when, where, why, with whom? And your best resources are your employees and your clients. Your employees and your clients will help you innovate and help you understand what your expanded services could be in this recovery. And they're your greatest source of inspiration. So don't forget to plan your growth. Forecast out. And third, hit the reset button. I know I've had to for my company. Hit the reset button and reforecast. And be brave enough to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because there is going to be ugly. I told my team Q2 was going to suck. Forgive my word, but it is going to be awful. So we have a forecast for what's the worst scenario, what's a better scenario, and what's the best scenario right now. And I'm fully transparent with them on what that's going to mean for our business and what stages. So think about in the recovery, what is best for you and your family? What is best for your employees? What is best for your customers and your community? And you know what? I know you're all great people, and you are going to be able to bring your companies back. And we need, as business people, to decide what we're going to do safely and responsibly to get back to work. Now, here's a really good example of a people recovery guideline. And I share this with you so you can have a tool. And at the end of our conversation today, we're going to show you how you can get this whole presentation to use with your team, because I want to share with you. So what's really important is you want to take the recovery slow. Remember that we're in phase 1 of the recovery, according to the federal government. And in the chat function, we put the resource for Opening Up America Again. It's a PDF. If you haven't read it, you should read it, and your staff should read it. Because phase 1 requires us to be very safe and responsible. 33 states are in partial phase 1 opening. 9 are still completely shut down, and 9 are soon to open. This is as of last night, the data that I looked up last night. So the recovery needs to be based on you, your company, your family, your employees, and your customers, and the state where you reside. Recovering in New England will be very different than recovery in Colorado or Florida or Texas. So let's respect where we are and honor that. Testing is going to be a big part of the recovery. How do we do it safely and respectfully for employees, customers, and vendors? I want to go get a pedicure. I'm sure a lot of girls on this call want to go get a pedicure because it's summertime. And I was told I have to have my temperature taken. So think about these things and how that's going to impact your business. And we have such diverse businesses, and one size does not fit all. This particular example that I have up on the slide right now is just an example of how you can put together a phase 1 guideline for your team. If you note, it says phase 1 recovery guidelines for TalenTrust. I put it out on April 27th because Colorado, where I reside and most of my employees are, opened up that very next week. And one thing I wanted to ensure my team of is that I know they're responsible adults. They can read and they will follow the guidelines based on their own personal judgment and circumstances. So I will gift this to you if you want the PowerPoint deck, so you can have an example of very simple guideline to put together to guide your team and your customers. Then if you note at the bottom on the slide, once Colorado enters phase 2 of the recovery, we will issue a phase 2 recovery. That also is really important. So those are just some tools to think about as we recover. The other thing I wanted to point out today is that business continuity is dependent upon people continuity. You cannot grow your business without people. You cannot grow your business without customers. So here's some key points here. How are you going to prepare your people for the recovery as we re-enter? These are things to ponder and discuss internally. What are employees considering, and how are you designing a phased-in work strategy? What kind of transparency are you using to create trust in your organization? And remember, as I said, map out the best and worst case scenarios. Step number 2, prepare the workspace and embrace virtual and work from home practices, because many people are going to be scared to come back to work. So embrace this virtual reality. I call it a, I feel like I'm in Jumanji, I'm in a Zoom Jumanji game. Embrace it, and how can you harness it, and how can you use it to have people come back to work differently. Phase 1, return to work guidelines encourages telework. So again, remember to read that to make sure that you're following those phased in strategies. And third, adapt your strategy and stay informed. Things are changing so rapidly. Consider having one key team member stay informed of all the testing, the treatments, and the back to work practices. And above all, stay connected to your people and communicate with them what you're doing, the best worst scenarios, and be present, be real, and be vulnerable. I love Brene Brown, and she talks a lot about right now, we need to be very vulnerable. We're not supposed to help ourselves, we're supposed to help each other. And we don't know how to do work while we're apart. We don't know how to social distance and stay sane. So being transparent with your people and helping them understand that you're anxious too is going to create trust that will help you in the recovery. A couple really good resources that I also want to offer to you is my friend Ami Kassar at Multifunding. He writes this great article in Inc. magazine called Staying Ahead of the Money Curve. I've read it every morning, and it has been a positive, brief, energetic hit of what I should be doing from a business and cash perspective. Really good resource for you. Another great resource for you are my friends at ITR Economics, who I love dearly, Alan and Brian Bolio and their team. They do a wonderful job helping us stay informed and ahead of it, and actually very calm about this recovery and where the economy is really going. They're very bullish that we're going to recover fairly well. Just when is the question. Next, I want to talk about retention. And you might think talking about retention right now is an interesting thing, because many of us had to furlough our people, let our people go, cut their pay, reduce their hours. How do you retain your employees and those you've had to let go in these challenging times? Couple things to think about. Create an alumni of the people who work for you or worked for you. So if you've had to furlough people or let them go, you're going to want the best and brightest of that bunch to come back. So create an alumni association of those people that you want to retain to come back for the recovery. It doesn't have to be high cost. It could be sending them notes from home, getting on a weekly social with them via Zoom or whatever other technology tool you have. Make sure you're engaging with them. Also have community outreach to companies other than yours if you can't hire them back. So in Louisiana, I talked to a group of business owners, and one of their leaders, wonderful gal, Meredith Eckert, she is actually taking the contact information of the workers that have been displaced and creating a portal that anybody who had to let somebody go in their community, these are the people who were displaced, these are the people you could rehire. So it's a great way to be generous. If God forbid you had to let your people go, let's work together to find them another job. Also, I will tell you some exciting work that we're doing. There's great jobs out there called contact tracers. If you've had to displace employees and you don't think you'll be able to bring them back, imagine how you can retain them when you can bring them back if you create a job for them right now with somebody else. Might sound counterintuitive, but I'm telling you, you give somebody a job, you give them dignity, even if it's not with you. Contact tracing jobs are available all over our great country, and they don't pay too badly. So have your displaced people look for contact tracing positions. We at TalenTrust are helping different states find these great people. So if you have to have displaced people, send them to us too. I think if you can get them a job, if you can't hire them back, they'll come back to you when you're ready. And that's a wonderful gift. I want to also do just a teeny little exercise with you on creating this transparency I keep talking about. Even though you might think people who work for you right now would never ever quit you because they're scared. I hate to tell you, employees still have all the power, and they would quit you if they have another opportunity to go to, because they are operating on fear right now. So Spencer at Zillow talks about re-recruiting your people and fighting for them and why they should continue to work for you. There's two quick key questions that I want you to answer. Write these down for me, please. They're called stay interview, technically, if you're working with an HR person, but I just think they're really good questions to ask the people who work for you. The first one is, why do you choose me? Why do you choose to work for me? And the second is, under what circumstances would you leave? So let's do a little thing in the chat function. Write in the chat function why you believe your employees choose you. Not your company, you, the leader. Why do they choose you? And I'll read some of them. I won't say who you are, so don't worry about it. But please share, why do you think people work for you? It's a great thing to know because it's part of who you are and part of your brand. Because if they don't fit you, they're going to quit you. And if they don't fit you, they're going to want to move on to somebody else that they fit, because it is about value and it is about your attitudes and beliefs and lining that up with everyone. Nobody's really playing with me yet on why people choose you. I don't see anything in the chat yet. But what I will tell you, I know why people choose me to follow into uncertainty every day, because I tell them the truth. I'm honest. I'm always transparent. And I tell them what's happening, when it's happening, why it's happening, and there's no surprises. And I expect that back from my people too. So do yourself a favor and ask that question. Why do you choose me? And under what circumstances would you leave? Oh, I'm getting some populated now. Inspiration. They admire that I own my own company. Good for you. That's great. Make sure you ask them. Our core values, another participant. Our core values are culture and our team. And you know, some people underrate team. I will tell you, our customers tell me the reason they choose my company over another company is because of the very people who work for me. So those people who work for you do define you in the marketplace. Thank you for playing. I've had a couple people play. It's great. Okay, and also what I've learned over time is people don't care what you tell them. They don't care what you did. They want to feel inspired by you. What have you done to inspire your people lately? Are you making sure you're over communicating during these tough times? So it's really important that you do so, as Maya says. And now I'm going to open this up to questions, because this is your time. And I'm going to jump back on my video. I think we have a few questions in the chat line. And I want to make sure that we get your questions answered. So Erin's going to run the Q&A so I can just really focus on the answers. Erin, hit me with the questions, because this is for our participants.
Yes, thank you, Kathleen. Well done. We do have quite a few questions in the chat, so let's start responding to those. The first of them was, what should I do if people are scared to return to work?
I've been getting that question almost daily. And people are scared to return to work. So the first thing to think about is, can the person work from home? That's the first question to answer. Second, do they have someone vulnerable in their home, or are they themselves vulnerable? Because in most states, and I encourage you to talk to an employment attorney in your state, in most states, the burden is on the employer to create a reasonable accommodation for their employees. And the question then becomes, what's a reasonable accommodation, Kathleen? What are you talking about? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, reasonable, the definition of reasonable is in the eye of the beholder. So get with an employment attorney in your state, because it's different by state, and make sure that you have these discussions before people start phasing back into the workforce, because you're going to have people scared to come back to work, because the media has scared everybody that they're going to die if they see anybody in person. So that's scary.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you. There were a few folks who would like to hear a bit more about the contact tracing jobs that struck some folks. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Sure can. So contact tracers are people who, it's kind of like think of it as a call center with compassion. And each state is hiring contact tracers. And they did this in the HIV crisis and the AIDS crisis as well. But they let the positions kind of diminish because there wasn't as much of a need. But basically, it's helping people who are exposed to COVID-19. It's reaching out to people who might have been exposed to the virus through somebody else. So it's kind of following somebody. So for example, say I, Kathleen Quinn Votaw, might have been exposed to the virus, and I went to a wedding. It's making sure that people who are around me at the wedding know they might have been exposed to this virus. So in each state, there's actually state, local, and tribal funding to bring in contact tracers. So the job is kind of communications, compassionate communications, ability to talk to people via phone over a very sensitive situation. It's their health. And make sure that they know that they've been exposed or might have been exposed. It's really providing a lot of work for people who have been displaced. We're working with about 20 states right now. So it's really great opportunity, and it's good pay, reasonable pay, $17 to $22 an hour. So if you have anybody you know that's displaced, have them look into contact tracers in their area.
Yeah, and there's many hundreds and thousands of folks who need to be hired to do contact tracing. And the key is collection of data so that as best we can in the country that we love, we can contain COVID and fight it as much as possible. It's important for many of us. Very good. Another individual had a question. Do you have any advice as I face laying off some of my staff? And while I do these layoffs, I still see gaps in my talent on my team that I need to recruit for. How do I reconcile this for myself? And how do I communicate these two different needs?
Yeah, that's tough as a business owner, but not insurmountable. Often we might have to displace, lay off, let go of people that we care about, we love, but they just don't have the skills to do the work that we need. So when you have to displace people and then hire different people back, it really focuses on the skills. It really being focused on the skills and the work that you need people to do. And that's where you can get some relief in having to let somebody go, perhaps in operations, but then you're going to bring somebody on board in sales. It's also, as business owners and leaders, take this opportunity to take a hard look at your team, because you should be looking at people and keeping those that are most talented. If you can't afford it, make sure you keep people who are the most talented. So it is a hard situation. We're in this virus situation none of us chose to be, but it is an opportunity as a business owner, business leader. Look at the people who work for you, look at their contributions, look at their skills, look at their values alignment. Maybe they'd be happy doing something else. This could be a good transition time for them. There's lots of flexibility on unemployment that the federal government and state governments have opened up. So there is a lot of opportunity to really reflect on your team. And it's hard when you have to let some people go in certain functions, but then beef up over in sales and marketing, for example. But as long as you're transparent and tell people what you're doing and why you're doing it, it should reconcile that, that struggle within. The more transparent and vulnerable and honest you can be, it can help with that message to your people and your internal struggle. Great question.
Good. Thank you. I think we have time for one, maybe two more. Of all the items that are included in your recovery phase 1 guidelines, what is the most important one on your mind?
For me and for my team, my culture, my values is that I respect my employees as adults. I know that they can read, and I know they can make good personal decisions. I trust them and they trust me. And they know what's happening just as much as I do. And they're responsible adults that when given information, they can make the best decision for themselves, their family, their coworkers, and our customers. I think that's the best message.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
And
Our time, go ahead.
Erin, I wanted to go over before we'll close with a question, but I want to go over some next steps for all of you still on the call. Please take out your cell phones if you want this deck and all of the examples, and text the word people puzzle no space 44222. The instructions are on the screen. We have so many resources for you. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Remember, you can book me as a speaker. I'm not so bad for your next company meeting or association. Download our 2020 hiring guide. All of that is still very relevant. Contact me. My email is kvotaw@talenttrust.com. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel at KQV Speaks. So Erin, go ahead and ask the last question, and then we'll close.
Yeah, I think we are all, our time is up, and there were no additional questions. Thank you all for joining us today and for your participation. Kathleen, thank you for your time and your insights. Join us next month for our next executive briefing. It will be on Wednesday, June the 10th, same time, 11 a.m. Mountain Time. Goodbye, all.
Bye. Have a great day.